Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 3-0 Take, where we talk all things Major League Baseball. Here's Kyle Corwin and Nate Reyes. It all starts right now.
Welcome back to the 3-0 Take, presented by SeatGeek. This is episode 427. I'll be your host, Kyle Corwin, and hey, can we just boo it up? Can we just boo it up? Ryan Ripken, I'm looking at you, pal. Look, I get the NFL draft is this week. You're big leaguing me, pal. You're big leaguing me. We said, yeah, we got a whole round of boos. We knew Nate was going to be out of town for his honeymoon. I've said that a dozen times already. And we're really, the people, myself included, we were really hoping we could have you on, talk some O's, talk some Jackson Holliday. But you know, he said, "Hey, we'll have to loop back around. Another date, another time." I said, "All right, I get it. You're a busy man. You're bigger than us peasants. I understand, Ryan. We'll still talk some O's here, but continue on our round of boos. The White Sox. How about the White Sox?" The Chicago White Sox on pace to go 21 and 141. I'm not, the audio didn't cut out. I'm just trying to process what I just said. The Chicago White Sox, I'll say it again, on pace to go 21 and 141. We're coming up on May, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong here. Last I checked, still 3 wins. Still 3 wins. Horrendous. Speaking of horrendous, closing out the round of boos. Should we make this a new segment? Should we just open up with, we just get the boos out of the way? Rounding out the segment here, the inaugural opening boos. Alek Manoah. You probably heard of him. He's not doing too good. He hadn't been doing good for a while. Then they sent him down to get some work done in the minors. Still not doing well. His latest outing, which was tonight, I believe, 3 innings pitched, 6 earned runs, 7 hits, 4 walks. He did have 5 Ks, but gave up 2 bombs. Blue Jays, just cut the ties, man. Cut the ties. We're done. It's over. It's a lost cause. Maybe somebody else can salvage this man's career, but I think you're better off just saying farewell to a Mr. Alek Manoah. I just don't think it's there. I don't know what happened. This will be a case to study years down the road, I'm sure. But he doesn't have it anymore. He doesn't have it anymore. Yeah, send him to the White Sox. Send him to the White Sox. Maybe they'll improve their pace to like 23 and 139. Actually, bonus boos, and this we're getting into the meat of the podcast now. This is what you're all here for. Major League umpires are horrendous. Major League umpires, welcome to the Ump Show. Welcome to the 3-0 Take, but welcome to the Ump Show. I mean, I count like 3-4 instances off the top of my head. We're going to get into just a couple here. One of which happened this evening or today, and one that happened earlier this week that are making the rounds. But talk about just getting it wrong. I've never seen outside of maybe the politicians in DC, I've never seen a group of people be just so wrong all the time about everything that they do. I mean, okay, let's go back to Monday. A's Yankees. If you haven't heard about it by now, Aaron Boone with the classic say nothing ejection. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, basically what happened, there was an instance, again, on Monday, we're 4 pitches into the game, I believe, or the 4th pitch of the game, I think is what where the issue came into play. Is it was believed that the hitter was clipped on a breaking ball down by his foot. There was it looked like a swing attempt. Aaron Boone gets into it, talking about, well, it's a full swing, it should negate being hit by the pitch, yada yada yada. The umpire's like, Aaron, I've had enough. Pipe down. Aaron's like, all right. Boone's like, okay, you're all right. It's early. It's early. No need to get carried away. Seconds later, you hear from that general vicinity, come on, home plate. Immediately, mask off. Aaron, you're gone. You're gone. And all the while, Aaron Boone's sitting here looking at his nails in, might I add, the most feminine way possible. Look, teach your own. I just thought it was funny. Just an observation. It seemed to be something that nobody was really talking about. I thought it was funny. He's sitting there. He's got them all all fanned out. Just taking a look, and immediately looks up and see. I think the timing of it was as he's looking up, he's seeing the follow through of getting tossed from home plate umpire Hunter Wendelstedt. So immediately he comes out. He's going, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. Just laced with expletives. It was wild how, let's talk about the hot mics for a second. It was crazy how much was picked up by the microphones for this game. I understand it was an afternoon game, which is a whole nother thing, by the way. Something else that nobody's really mentioned. Are we sure that there wasn't maybe a prearranged agreement between Boone and Wendelstedt before the game, being like, hey, we're playing the A's. I think we got this one in the bags. Ironically, I think they went on to lose that Monday game. But assuming they were going to get the win, do you think Boone made an agreement and said, hey, you know what? Can you just get me out of here? I want to go home. I don't want to be here for this game. Hard to really say, but that's besides the point. So he comes out. I didn't say anything. I didn't say that. That's BS. You don't know what you're talking about. And as he's saying, I didn't say anything, Wendelstedt's going, you're probably right. Turns out it was a fan behind the seat, and you've probably seen the video where it's this guy who just looks like your average New York Yankees fan. Take that as you will. He just looks like an average Yankees fan. You gotta love a guy like that. He's just letting the umpire hear it. You know, the same thing any of the rest of us would do on a terrible call or a questionable call at that. And it ends up being him. He then, as we've alluded to, Boone gets tossed. He's just letting the umpire have it. All the while, moments later, the guy that made the comment behind the dugout switches out of his like pullover. So I don't know, to throw the authorities off the scent. Who really knows? I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting story, or layer rather, to the story. But the worst part about all of this is that after the game, we talk all the time about umpires lacking accountability. All the while, after the game, he's going, I heard something. I want to make sure I got the quote. He said, I heard something come from the far end of the dugout, had nothing to do with his area, but he's the manager of the Yankees, so he's the one that had to go. Okay, let's look at this. I'm okay with the concept or the way of thinking or the ideology that protecting the players is important when it comes to ejections. But I don't really think that's what was truly going on here. I think that was just a cop-out. I think that was an easy layup for Wendelset to go, hey, we got to protect the players. No. He was just tired of having his buttons pushed, just like majority of umpires out there today are, tired of having his buttons pushed, and wanted an excuse to ring somebody up, to put his stamp on the game about as early as you possibly could. I mean, short of tossing Boone post national anthem, I don't know how much earlier he could have tossed Boone. And it just, this whole situation reeks, again, to use the phrase, lack of accountability. Has anybody heard anything about a possible repercussion for Wendelset for his completely unnecessary ejection? No, the only headline I saw today was that the league said something about this being a bad ejection. Okay. So we're just going to call it a bad ejection, sweep it under the rug, and move on, and continue to let these umpires just go into total God mode, control the game for as much and as long as they want to. I'm just done. You hear all the time, the best umpires are the ones you don't hear about. But yet we're leading off this episode talking about an umpire who ejected a guy 4 pitches into the game. So, I mean, like, I've given up on Angel Hernandez. Like, just thinking about umpires around the league, I've given up on Angel Hernandez. And there's a handful of others you see all the time on the umpire report cards, which is a great follow on Twitter if you don't follow them already. You just see how bad some of these particular individuals are. It's just embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. I can't think of another season in recent memory where I've been more embarrassed at the product that is Major League Baseball. Between the umpires, between the uniforms, between some of the rule changes. I'm not going to say all of them, but and not to go down that rabbit hole, but there's just I think there's some sort of conspiracy here if we're talking umpires. I've been saying this for months, years, actually, ever since this Roboump idea was introduced. I came to the conclusion today. I legitimately believe it's not a bit anymore. It was a bit to start, I think, because I was like, oh, like this sounds kind of catchy. This will maybe pick up some traction. I legitimately believe at this point and I don't know when it started, but I think there was a under the table, behind closed doors agreement between the Umpires Association or the Umpires Union and Major League Baseball. Some sort of buyout, some sort of payout. How I don't know the details, just something to incentivize umpires being intentionally bad at their job, because there's no way that professionals at this level who have that degree of training, that degree of expertise, that degree of experience, longevity, whatever you want to call it, there's no way that you could be this bad at your job on this regular of a basis. There's just no way. If you were, or if you know somebody at your work who is this bad, this consistently, you probably don't know them anymore because they probably got fired. That's the reality of it. But yet again, full circle here, it goes back to the point that I was talking about earlier. There's no accountability for umpires anymore. There may have not ever been. I don't really know. But recent memory with all of the shenanigans that have stemmed from the introduction of the idea of Roboumps, since that point, there has been no accountability for umpires. I don't understand it. So really, it's not as much of a conspiracy for me anymore as it's just a strongly held belief that there's some sort of weird behind the scenes agreement between Major League Baseball and the umpires to incentivize them to be intentionally bad at their job, to make the ushering in of robo-umps easier to digest for baseball fans. Because if you tell these umpires to be so just insanely bad at their job, even the diehards, even the traditionalists, the purists, they're going to look at this and go, man, these guys are they're killing my team, man. They're robbing my team of chances night in and night out to win baseball games and to make a run at the postseason. I'm tired of it. Get in the robots, get in the computers, get in the technology. That's what you're going to start hearing from these purists, and I think that's what they're after. Call me crazy. I just think that's where we're headed. Continuing the theme of umpires today, Angels-Orioles game ends on a pretty bang play, and it wasn't so much the bang play. It wasn't missing that call that rubbed me the wrong way. It was the review process. We talk all the time about how the review process is supposed to get it right. That's why we introduced this thing. Baseball didn't introduce the review process just for kicks and giggles. They didn't, I'm guessing at least, I don't know their ultimate motives, but I'm just going to assume that they didn't introduce the pitch clock to waste people's time. They introduced it because they wanted to get more calls right, so they didn't have to hear it from people every single game about how their umpires got the call wrong. They said, all right, we're tired of it. We're going to put in cameras everywhere so that we can't get it wrong. Well, they got it wrong today. And I don't understand how that happens. How do you have camera angles, multiple camera angles around the ballpark, slow motion? You know, that funny enough, that was one of my biggest gripes up until probably a year or two ago, year and a half ago, where we could see a speck of dust on the surface of the moon. But for some reason, Major League Baseball replay reviews were in like 2 frames a second, like -12 HD. I never understood. It's almost as if the people in the production trucks are like etching it in stone, etching the play as it develops in stone, and then that's what we checked back on. Fortunately, we fixed that. We've gotten a little better with the quality and the clarity, so we're able to see some of these calls a little bit better. But to that point, how are we getting this one wrong? How are we getting the Joe Adell steal attempt into second today in the Angels-Orioles game? How are we getting that wrong? It very clearly was foot to bag, glove to, what was it, his waist. Very, like, clear as day. I don't know what we're looking at. And the credit to the Angels broadcast. I know the Angels get the short end of the stick when it comes to jokes from baseball fans around the league. But I got to give props to their broadcast team today. They made it known just how horrendous of a call that was. I don't know if you've seen that clip. I honestly hadn't seen it until maybe like an hour before I hopped on this recording. So I would recommend you go check that out after you wrap up listening to this podcast. But I'm all about like transparency and honesty on a call like that. So, like, spare me the cliches, the standard MO for broadcasters. Like, let me know how you're really feeling. Just let me know. And they did. And it was in the heat of the moment. It was funny. They were prefacing it by saying, well, if this call goes the way we think it should, and then immediately, like seconds later, the umpire's like, the call stands, the runner is out. And they just let it eat. And we need more of that. We need more of that. If these umpires aren't going to hold themselves accountable, broadcast teams, baseball fans, we are going to have to keep holding them accountable ourselves, because they're surely not going to do it. And hopefully somebody in a position of power, I don't know who that is. I don't know if it's Manfred. I don't know if it's a faction within Major League Baseball that could ultimately make the move, but somebody needs to be consistently made aware just how bad these umpires are. And I'm hoping 2024 sees more of that this trend continues, because I think the umpires are trash momentum is picking up. But again, that goes back to my conspiracy that I think that's what Major League Baseball wants. So maybe we should tread a little lighter on that. If you are a fan of the umpires and the human element, which I am, I love being able to get on here and just talk about missed calls and how umpires miss it. That's all baseball's ever been. And I'm not saying it has to be that way forever. I know I understand baseball changes, but this is the people pulling for Roboumps, the same people that thought we'd have flying cars by now. In other words, the technology is just not there yet. And I think it applies with the Roboumps. I don't think we've seen a widespread enough effort made to perfect or get as close to perfection as we can with the Roboump, the Robo strike zone, whatever you want to call it. I don't think we've gotten to that point, and I think it's only going to make matters worse. So at the very least, if we're going to be complaining regardless, let us complain about the umpires, because, like I said, somebody needs to hold them accountable. Speaking of holding oneself accountable, mentioned it last episode, Jackson Holliday, he's kept a level head for his age, for a kid his age, based on the way the season's gone for him. I don't know. Somebody check for me. Did Jackson get a hit today? I know he got one last night. He got a second of the season last night. But if he did not, let me check here. Yeah, continuing the theme of the Orioles here after that horrendous call in the O's-Angels game. Let us see. Oh, looks like Jackson had the day off. Looks like Jackson had the day off. Wait, did Jackson get a hit? Jackson got a hit last night. I don't believe he got one today. Yeah, I don't think he even played today. Yep, had the day off. With that said, 2 for 34 entering Wednesday. He's hitting .059. And again, would have loved to have had Ryan on to talk about this. Ryan, if you're watching, this is your segment, buddy. Everybody go tweet at Ryan. Say, Ryan, 3-0 take over NFL draft prep. Make a choice. The choice is simple. The choice is yours. He's hitting .059, 18 Ks. I'll be honest with you. I never know how to say batting averages that are that low. Because usually you're just like, oh, he's hitting like 225. Rarely is a guy hitting under 100. So like, do you just say like 059? He's hitting 059. Yeah, that sounds right. I knew that. He's hitting 059, 18 strikeouts. He's got an OPS of 170, which, as you very well know, if you're just an average baseball fan, bare minimum, you would know that a 170 OPS doesn't even pass for a mediocre batting average. That's below the Mendoza line. His OPS is below the Mendoza line. He's got a negative 47 OPS plus. He's got a negative .5 WAR. And he himself said, obviously, I wasn't expecting this. I knew what I was getting myself into. It's the best of the best of the best for a reason. I guess I haven't had a challenge yet, and this is the first one. It's obviously challenging, but I feel like I'm handling it the best I can. Props to the kid, man. Props to the kid. Props to the kid. And Jacob in the chat says, I'm in the camp of giving Holliday time, but what's the timeline before sending him back down? Look, I'm glad you brought that up, Jacob, because I had a note in here, and I'm sure Ryan would have echoed the same thing had he been on the podcast. Ryan. Look, the reality is the Baltimore Orioles can afford to have Jackson Holliday up. They won today, so they're 16-8 now. Gunner's swinging it. Colton Cowser swinging it. Jordan Westberg is swinging it. I feel like a lot of people forgot about Jordan Westberg coming into the season and amidst all the other names. They're doing just fine. Granted, Grayson got tagged yesterday, but I'm going to assume that that's the exception and not the rule. Jackson is going to be fine. Based on that quote alone, I'm sure he's had more conversations, more interviews, but that quote alone, I'm very impressed with. And I know he's probably gotten the PR chat or the PR advice from his dad, so he understands how to handle himself even at this young age. But I'm very impressed with where he's at given the start. And not only that, but given the start coming off of this stint he had in AAA where he was demolishing baseballs. That has to do something for your confidence. The kid knows he's good, and he gets sent out, like he has the unfortunate timeline or move where he's sent down to AAA to start the year when he probably had pretty high hopes that he was going to start the year with the club. So he's like, all right, let's go down to AAA. Let's do what they said that I needed to work on. Again, I've said it a dozen times. First time seeing a lefty, because that's what they said he needed to work on. Takes the lefty deep, his first at bat against a lefty in AAA to start the year, and then just continues to rake the rest of the time he's down in AAA. So then he gets called up. I don't think there's a better situation that you can be in than that. So you probably think, okay, like I may not come out of here and hit 400, but for a 20-year-old kid, I think I'm gonna be all right. Again, proceeds to go 2 for 34, but it's the way, like I said, it's the way he responded, where he's talking about he understands that it's the best of the best of the best. And honestly, when I read this quote, if I'm being honest, I sensed a little bit of cockiness, a little bit, and not like in a negative way. He seems like a really good kid, and I keep bringing up Ryan. Much love to you, Ryan. We love you on this show, resident Orioles guy. But I think Ryan would echo the same thing. He would echo the same sentiment, and that this is a good kid. Like, I don't think he means anything when he says, "I guess I haven't had a challenge yet, and this is the first one." I don't think it's a negative cockiness. I think it's more of like I'm kind of feeling myself, and I have been for some time. So yeah, now we have to adjust to this challenge, something that I'm not really used to, being challenged. But again, going back to the question, I don't think there's a reason to send him down. I mean, unless it just gets drastically worse. But if you can sprinkle in a hit here, and honestly, if I've been watching baseball, I've played baseball, I've been around the game for majority of my life. I'm 30 years old. I would venture to say, I mean, granted, his second hit, he laced up the middle, like it was a hard ground ball. But I would venture to say the way that things will likely go for Jackson is he's going to have a swinging bunt. He's going to leg it out for a single. He's going to have a little duck fart behind the first or third baseman, leg out a single. He's going to maybe find a gap, snag a quick double. He's going to sprinkle in. He's going to be fine. He's going to sprinkle in a hit or two here and there. And then that snowball is going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to roll. And then it's just going to pick up so much steam that we will have forgotten that this start even happened. In terms of what drastically worse looks like, I mean, look, if he's still sitting on 2 hits at like 50 ABs through, I mean, I would give him another like 4 or 5, even 6 games to kind of keep it going. But I mean, if we're looking at like 2 for 50, 2 for 60, okay, yeah, probably need to send him down. Like, yeah, they can afford to kind of take that. I don't want to call it damage, but he literally has a negative WAR, so I guess you technically could say that they're absorbing damage. They can afford to do that, but there's also a point where it's like, this just doesn't even make sense anymore. Like we're giving him a shot, but clearly he needs to get his head right. So I'm in the camp, keep him up, let him iron it out, let him figure it out. And it'll, like I said, we'll eventually forget that this even happened. Talking about being sent down, Jordan Walker, news broke today that the Orioles touted prospect who made waves last year. Gosh, it's already been a year. For being sent down. I think it was the opposite case last year. No, I'm sorry. There's a lot of baseball nuggets that you have to remember when you do something like this. I'm forgetting. What he started off well, right? And got sent down last year. Isn't that what happened? I think that's what happened with Jordan Walker. This year, a little more warranted. Again, option to AAA Memphis. He's hitting 155, no bombs, and has an OPS plus of 41. So well below league average. I believe, however, this is a different situation than Jackson Holliday. People are going, well, why can't you just keep him up and let him iron out the kinks? Well, the Cardinals can't exactly do that. Cardinals are 3 games under 500. They got the win today, but they're 3 games under 500. They need guys that can. And I know it's early. I know it's a small sample size, but you don't want to dig too deep of a hole for yourself. So they need to plug the spots in that lineup, or the holes in that lineup, as Jordan Walker has proven to be somewhat of a vacancy in the lineup to this point. They need to plug the voids in that lineup with guys that can produce right now. I don't think there's any ill will towards Jordan Walker. I bet you if you asked him, he'd probably go, yeah, I probably need some time to get my head right, get my mechanics back to what they were. Because this guy has shown you that he can pop it, man. He's got the power and can provide it if things are going right. But as I just shared with you, the numbers are showing you that things are not right. And the general sentiment with this Jordan Walker situation appears to be kind of getting the pulse from Cardinals fans, that if the team wants to be at their best, they're going to need him to be at their best. He sounds like a very integral part of any potential success that they're to see later this year down the stretch. So you need to give him some time, give him some space to get back to the basics. That's what they talk about all the time, about these guys getting back to what they know and what they feel that they're capable of doing. A lot of times when guys start, they hit a slump, they start pressing, they start reaching, they start getting out of their comfort zone. They try to make too many changes. They try to make tweaks that aren't beneficial, but they feel like they have to change something. So then that's how bad habits are created, and it rarely works out. So a guy who, I mean, he's not a veteran, so you have the freedom, the flexibility to send him back down. Again, let him get his head right, and you can only hope, if you're the Cardinals, that he'll come back up and he'll get you squared away. Or he'll get himself squared away, and you'll be good to go. The other thing to keep in mind, though, with this is that it's talking about a team that can't really afford it. Nobody on the Cardinals is really tearing the cover off the ball. I mean, Nolan Gorman is your home run leader for the Cardinals. I mean, say what you will about Nolan Gorman, but I would venture to say that the Cardinals didn't foresee him being your home run leader a month into the season. And I know it's early, but it further validates the point that they just can't afford to take up a slot in that lineup and give Jordan Walker time to figure it out, because they need to start producing runs. I mean, they've scored last I checked, they scored the fifth fewest runs in baseball as of right now. And I know games are going on right now, so that may change. But either way, we'll just say, for the sake of conversation, they're bottom 5, 6 in runs scored in all of baseball. So, I mean, yeah, nobody's hitting, even for average, nobody's really, I mean, Nolan's hitting 295, Contreras 294. So the power and the contact and really just the ability to get on base is lacking just a little bit from just about every guy, minus one or two. So again, give him time, he'll figure it out. Talk about giving a guy time. I don't know if this was a phantom IL stint or if he's actually, in some pain here. And I'm not trying to make a mockery of it. Like, if he's really going through it injury wise, like, I feel for the guy. But Blake Snell was scratched from his start today, which kind of sucks. He was about to make a start for me in fantasy. Not to mention, I got hit with the Brian Bello news too. Within like minutes, I feel like. Also my fantasy team. I got scratched from his start today, Wednesday, and was placed on the 15-day IL with a left adductor strain. For those of you asking at home, because I know you're just dying to know, I saw a note today that according to Baseball Prospectus, and their recovery database, players suffering from this type of injury miss on average 29 days. So it could go either way. He could miss more, he could miss less, but if he's out for the average amount of time, we're looking at about a month missing Blake Snell, which, to drive home the point again of guys maybe needing some time to get their head right. Tell you what, Blake Snell, we've already mentioned it multiple times this season. I mean, he's made 3 starts, so I know we've mentioned it probably at least 3 times on 3 separate occasions. 0-3. He's got an ERA of 11.57. He's only thrown 11 2/3, only 12 Ks, and has a whip of 1.97. He's got a 2.40 strikeout to walk ratio, and he has yet to complete 5 innings in a start, which I know if you follow Blake Snell for any length of time, you probably hear that and go, oh, well, the guy doesn't go terribly deep anyway, because high pitch counts, lots of walks, lots of foot traffic, lots of guys on base. This is just kind of what he does. Although he more often than not finds ways to get out of it, it's not as jarring to say that he has yet to complete 5 starts, but if you're looking for any sort of positive from his 3 starts, like, okay, did he at least get into like the 6th or 7th? No, has yet to complete 5 innings in a start. So all that to say, yeah, this guy could benefit from some time off. I don't necessarily want to say I told you so, because I'd probably be lying if I was going to sit here and pretend like I knew this bad of a start was coming. I was unsure of things going super well for him with the delay and the whole Boris holdout and all of that. But I did not foresee this happening. I mean, this has been rough. Fortunately for him, though, the other arms in that rotation for San Francisco are holding it down. Logan Webb, dominant as usual. Jordan Hicks has settled in nicely to a starter's role. Keaton Winn, kind of an underrated name right now. He's sporting a 3.54 over 5 starts. He's thrown 28 innings and has a whip of 104. So a welcome source of output or contribution from a guy that maybe was flying under the radar for some people. And then Kyle Harrison kind of pulling up the rear there, but all in all, like they got a few dudes in there that are finding ways to make it work. So, you know, if Blake Snell is going to need to miss some time, maybe this is the time to do it while those guys are holding it down in his absence. So, we will see how much time he misses, but you know, for his sake, for baseball's sake, I hope the reigning Cy Young winner can figure it out, because the number of names, man, the number of names missing time on the IL, or not even on the IL, just guys that are banged up. It's astronomical. It's mind-blowing. I don't understand. So, like I said, reigning Cy Young, I hope he can figure it out and get back to his rather dominant ways. Speaking of guys on the IL, Brayan Bello, placed on the 15-day IL, as I mentioned earlier. He's got right lat tightness. Can I just read you all something real quick? Oh, boy, oh boy. A list of Red Sox players that are dealing with something right now. Tristan Casas, left rib strain. Brayan Bello, right lat tightness. Tyler Heineman, right hamstring strain. Roman Gonzalez, left wrist sprain. Vaughn Grissom, right hamstring strain. Nick Pivetta, right elbow flexor strain. Garrett Whitlock, left oblique strain. Isaiah Campbell, right shoulder impingement. Liam Hendricks, recovering from Tommy John. Trevor Story, shoulder surgery, out for the year. Chris Murphy, Tommy John, out for the year. Lucas Giolito, internal brace procedure, out for the year. The Red Sox are going through it, man. I'm going through it. I mentioned last episode, this is the most, or maybe, was it last episode or was it on Bridge to Bucktober when I made a guest spot on that podcast? Either way, I can't remember where I said it, but this is the most roller coastery experience as a Red Sox fan I've had in some time. Years past, I've been like, we'll be fine. You got to weather the storm. We'll make it. We'll be all right. Whereas everybody else on Twitter is just losing their minds. Cancel the season after they lose like a 1-run game. I'm like, relax. It's 162 games. But I got to be honest. I'm right there with them. I'm living and dying by every single game. Like every inning. If an inning goes poorly, I'm like, game's over. The game's over. The season's over. Cancel it. It's so bad. Seeing it, like seemingly every day that passes. I'm sure tomorrow we'll find out. We'll find out tomorrow that Rafael Devers pulled his groin and is out for 6 months. He comes and you laugh. That would be what would happen because he came back tonight after missing some time. He didn't hit the IL. He was kind of hit or miss for a number of days there and missed a handful of days. Comes back tonight, has a day at the plate, hits a bomb. I'm telling you, that would be the Red Sox luck. That would be his luck. We wake up tomorrow. Rafi Devers has an ingrown toenail. It will require a rather complex surgery and an unorthodox surgery, and he'll be out until 2032. That's the kind of luck that the Red Sox are dealing with right now. But yeah, losing Brian Bello, who again, I think I gave some love to the Red Sox rotation last episode. He's like ERA wise, you can look at advanced analytics if you want, but just looking at ERA, he's one of the worst pitchers in the rotation. But he was sporting like a 305 or something, whereas everybody else in the rotation has just been dicing. Cutter Crawford, Nick Pivetta, who at the time of the injury was just dicing. Garrett Whitlock, Tanner Houck. Tanner Houck's had a great start to his year. Losing Brian Bello sucks because you would imagine that once things maybe level out, and who's to say, maybe Cutter Crawford, Tanner Houck, maybe they go on to have like sub 3 ERA seasons. Who knows? But I always talk about the law of averages in baseball. If the law of averages kick into play here, you would imagine that Brian Bello, when it's all said and done, will be, at the top looking down in terms of that rotation. So to lose a guy like this for any length of time, especially early on when he's finding a little bit of consistency on the bump, he's trying to build off some momentum. This last outing you just had, you couldn't have had a better outing. Based on the first few starts. Like that was a great way to come back, and that was a truly strong effort against the Pirates. So to rob him of the opportunity to build off that momentum really sucks for a team that is littered with minor league players right now. Like that, we're starting to see, I think we're going to start seeing guys that we've never even heard of. So, the fact that they're still winning baseball games, I know games are going on right now, but let's just see where they're at relative. Okay, so they're 14-11. They're ahead of the Blue Jays, ahead of the Rays. Again, every team as it stands right now, the second I'm looking at it, every team in the American League East, 500 or better. The Rays are in last at 13-13. So, I mean, they're staying afloat in a very difficult division. So I got to tip my cap, but it's not going to change the fact that I'm going to continue to live and die every single game, which again is something that I haven't really done before. So it's kind of new for me. It's kind of nice. Like, I don't know if those of you listening or watching, I don't know if that's how you're a fan, but it's kind of like it's like a daily high when you're like, all right, are we gonna just absolutely lose our minds tonight, or are we just gonna collect a quick dub and go to sleep and wake up and see if we're gonna cancel the season tomorrow? It's kind of nice. Like, it's kind of therapeutic to just to be on the edge of your seat, to be on the edge of the balcony every single night. It's kind of nice, but it's also very stressful. So it's not good for my health. Speaking of health, Cody Bellinger, another guy placed on the IL. He has a fractured rib. The video, which I'm sure you may have seen, kind of got banged up against the wall there at Wrigley. A lot of people calling for something to be done about the brick wall. That's a losing battle, friend. I don't think anything's gonna be done about the brick wall there. I did see somebody, however, talk about figuring out a way to increase the growth or to expedite the growth of the ivy to maybe serve as a little bit of a cushion. I feel like with all the technology that exists in the world, that we have the ability to maybe do that. I mean, we can roid up chickens to expedite the growth of the meat that gets packaged to your grocery store. We can juice those bad boys up. Can we not juice up the ivy on the walls in Wrigley? I mean, there's got to be something we can do, or put something behind the ivy. I don't know, but come on. It's sort of like last year when people were complaining about the wall, or the fence rather, the like curb almost in Dodger Stadium, where Judge fractured his toe or foot or whatever, and was out for a crazy amount of time. It's like some of these things I feel like can be avoided, you know? Like if a guy pulls a Jeter and just dives headfirst into the crowd and busts up his face, okay, well, you have to have seats. You can't exactly avoid that. But something like a brick wall with ivy, can we not do something that maybe, I understand you have to have an outfield wall, but can something not be done to alleviate that a little bit? All that to say, you want to talk about a team that has also been beaten up. Jameson Taillon, Justin Steele, Kyle Hendricks, Drew Smyly, Julian Merriweather, Seiya Suzuki, Patrick Wisdom, Nick Madrigal have all spent time on the IL this year. The corresponding move for Bellinger's move to the shelf, they're bringing up top prospect Pete Crow Armstrong, Mr. Blue Hair. So, you know, defensively, you're going to be all right there with PCA. You're going to be all right. But offensively, you know, Cody has been off to an all right start. I mean, he's got 5 jacks, 17 ribbies. He's hitting 226 through 84 at bats, but he's got an OPS of 760. So I think if the weather was going to be getting a little warmer, which, you know, it takes a minute to do that in Chicago. But I think he was gonna start picking up. I'm curious what his splits are month by month. That's one of my underrated favorite stats is checking out splits month to month. Like, I know certain people like home versus road, or indoor versus outdoor. I like looking at months. I like seeing when a guy is on the trajectory of heating up or about to take a massive fall off, like, you know, fall off a cliff almost when certain months hit. I'm always interested to see when guys are projected to heat up, because typically it usually is somewhat of a bell curve. you start off a little slow, you heat up in the warmer months, and then, the wear and tear of a season kind of wears you down a little bit. But I was looking at Harper splits today, for example, just cause doing a little bit of fantasy research. And you want to talk about getting geared up for the fall, getting geared up for the postseason. Go check out his splits from, I think it's like October, September. That's a guy that heats up at that time. So, it's just interesting to see when a guy will start to heat up again. So who's to say what Cody was about to do, but either way, we won't know because he will be hitting the shelf. Just another name added to the IL. The injuries this year are off the charts, and we've talked a bunch about pitchers facing a lot of these issues, a lot of arm issues. Talk about the pitch clock, talk about medical staffs for teams. There's a lot of play here. Talk about the pursuit of max velocity. But when you look at stuff like this, these are just unfortunate things. Like another outfitter, we talked about Tyler O'Neill a while back, just a freak collision. Cody Bellinger gets beaten up a little bit out there with the brick wall in Wrigley. So you can't. It's not like you can really pin this or blame this on anybody. It's just tough. But either way, regardless what the reasoning is, it's unfortunate to see stars around the game missing time, especially this early, and especially seemingly at the same time. It's just, I feel like everybody, are we just watching AAA across Major League Baseball now? Like, how is everybody's team doing health-wise? Like, are you currently watching your AAA team play Major League Baseball? Because I feel like I am. And it sounds like the Cubs sort of are as well. Closing the book here. Shohei Ohtani hit an absolute nuke on Tuesday night versus the Nationals. He's literally right down the road. He's like 30 minutes away. I should have gone to see him this week. Missed out on that opportunity. 450 feet, 118.7 miles an hour off the bat. The hardest hit ball of the season. Look, I'm just going to say it because nobody else is saying it. It didn't look like it went 450 feet. Like, we've seen balls absolutely demolished, and it'll be like, yeah, it was like 402. And then weirdly enough, you'll see balls that are out over like the right field wall, like a few rows deep, and it'll be like 427 feet. It's like that doesn't even make sense. That's not mathematically possible. I took geometry in middle school, and I can tell you by looking at the screen that that's not possible. So I mean, talking about this 450-foot home run, it was a cannon off the bat. It was a laser. I'm not doubting the 118.7, but it just didn't look 450 feet. It was a bomb. I think it was like what, the second deck. It was a moon shot, but I don't know. Either way, whether or not it went 450 feet, whether or not Major League Baseball is trying to push a narrative with Shohei's StatCast numbers. Nah, it probably did go 450 feet. Just first glance, first time watching the video, I was like, oh, wow, that's surprising. Regardless if that's the case, just a little nugget here for Shohei. At the time of pulling my notes together this afternoon, Shohei Ohtani, according to Major League Baseball's official Twitter account, Major League Baseball ranks first in average at 364, hits first with 36, doubles first with 11, on base third with a clip of 430, slug first with a clip of 677, and OPS first with a clip of 11:07. Guy's machine, man. I saw somebody. It's been a while since we saw like the unicorn tweets because, he's just hitting. So it's not as frequent anymore. But I did see a tweet today. It said, imagine doing what he's doing right now while recovering from Tommy John. Look, it's a good point. I don't know. I never had Tommy John, so I don't know what the process is like or how much it impacts your ability to hit. Clearly, it doesn't impact Shohei whatsoever. But it's just interesting. Interesting thing to keep in mind. Jared Jones. I don't know what to say. If you heard me say Jared Jones, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. That clip of that sweeper slider against Bryce Terang of the Brewers the other night. I tweeted it out. I said this pitch is punishable by death in like 37 countries. And it was. Go back and watch the video. You have to, if you're Bryce Terang, you have to. How does that work? Do you request a DFA? Do you look for a roster opening in the KBO? I just don't know how you come back from that. And look, Jared Jones, kid is the real deal. I'm excited to watch him moving forward. I saw an article the other day. It was headlined. It was something along the lines of like, the Pirates have an ace in Jared Jones, and he's not even their ace, or something like that. But just speaking to the point that this guy has the very near immediate potential to be number one material for a major league team. Like, say the Pirates, we all know how they handle their assets. I've talked about that before, especially with this whole Paul Skeens conversation going on. Who's to say how long he's with the club? But wherever he ends up for the majority of his career, he's gonna presumably be at or near the very top of whatever rotation he's with. Speaking of being at the top of the rotation, Max Fried threw himself a little bit of a Maddox the other night, tossing 92 pitches, gave up 3 hits, had 6 Ks. And via Justin Havens on Twitter, he said Max Fried is the first pitcher to throw a 9-inning shutout in 92 pitches or fewer since, you guessed it, Max Fried in 2021. You love to see that, man. I'm all about the Maddoxes, man. In what seems to be a lost art of lengthy starting pitching. Lengthy, efficient starting pitching. You love to see when a guy can toss a Maddox, man. You love that. And that's a good bounce back for Max Fried. A little slow out of the gate for his standards, but no team like the Marlins. Well, maybe the White Sox, but way to take advantage of a start against the Marlins. And people are saying, well, it's just the Marlins. Don't get too excited. Well, what else did you want him to do? Like, I'm sure Max Fried was smiling ear to ear when he checked the calendar and saw that the Marlins were the team that he was lined up for in a start where he needed to bounce back, and he took advantage of it. So good on Max Fried. Weekend series to watch. Speaking of the Braves, speaking of Max Fried's Braves, I'm watching the Guardians versus the Braves. Talk about two of the best teams in baseball right now. Hold on, we need to let's confirm here. The two best teams in baseball right now. I needed to clarify. The two best teams in baseball as of Wednesday night. Game 1 on Friday. We've got Logan Allen versus Chris Sale That's a 7:20 p.m. Eastern start. Why do the Braves start at 7:20? Like, just start at 7 or 7:05 like everybody else. What's up with the 7:20? Why? What's that about? So more people can hang out in the Battery? Is that what we're doing? Game 2, Tanner Bybee versus Charlie Morton, 7:20 p.m. Eastern. Tanner Bybee looking to build off a little bit from his last start. He's hoping to get back into the his older ways. Game 3, Ben Lively versus Bryce Elder. Bryce Elder looking to build off of his last start and maybe gain a little momentum there. That'll be a 1:35 p.m. Eastern start. So that's gonna be some good baseball, man. The Guardians are taking the baseball world by storm a little bit. Not too many people had them jumping out to this good of a start, but tell you what, man, they're taking and running with it. Although they got taken out to the shed by my Sox tonight. Sorry about it, but still, they're seemingly on cruise control right now. So we'll see how the series wraps up tomorrow with the Red Sox. But if they snag a win there, they'll be poised for a pretty good weekend in Atlanta. But Atlanta looking to defend the home turf as they usually aim to do. So it'll be a good series to watch. Hence my weekend series to watch. All right. Last item here. I got an email from Tim Schaefer. He says, "Hey guys, big fan of the podcast. No need for a response, just submitting a name proposal for the final, quote, unnamed segment." He says, "The green light." And in parentheses, he said, "As in now you've got the go-ahead to talk about what you all haven't yet gotten to." And Tim, I got to say, that's got to be the leader in the clubhouse. Jacob, I apologize. In the chat, you're throwing out ideas, but 3-0 green light, that might be a move. I don't want to quite make an executive decision. We can take these suggestions that we've been getting. I know some folks over at Murray. I know you've reached out, I believe, with a suggestion. Jacob, Tim, some others. I'll take them into consideration. But I mean, if I'm being honest, the 3-0 green light is quite a name for this segment. If this is your first time listening, welcome. And if you don't know what this segment is, it's something that Nate and I introduced recently. And I do apologize. I think I realized that I didn't share one last episode because I was just brain dead. I apologize for last episode, by the way. I felt a little sluggish. There was a lot to cover. I was feeling a little run down, so it makes sense that I forgot to drop in a take. But again, if you're new, welcome. But this is something that Nate and I recently introduced, where it just gives us a chance to close the episode with a little bit of a hot take, to wrap up. And it may or may not be something that we got to in the episode. So it's just a window for us to address something. And tonight, we are talking about fans dunking on one another in the month of April. We got to stop. Twitter baseball culture is ruining people. We have what brought this to my attention. I see it all the time, but I saw one in particular the other day where it was an Orioles fan where he tweeted, "Yankees start 12-3. This was in quotes. "Yankees start 12-3. Nobody will catch them." And then proceeds to post a screenshot of the standings with the Orioles in front as like a sarcastic dig at people who thought the Yankees were gonna, like, I don't know, run away with the division. It's April. The standings that you see today are going to be different tomorrow. And then the teams that fill out the division 1 through 5, that order will be different the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Sound like Mr. Krabs. So all you SpongeBob fans, you know what I'm talking about. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So this whole like dunk it, we gotta stop. We gotta be better, baseball fans. Stop dunking on one another. It's April. Stop acting like the season ends at the end of the week. Like, get your digs, take your shots. But the divisions, the standings, they don't matter. It's April. The only thing that matters is, in terms of watching the division or the standings, is for the White Sox to see if they end up winning 20 games this season. But even then, they're going to be in last. So it's not even like you have to watch much there. You're just watching win totals at that point. But we got to chill. Yankee fans, Orioles fans. In fact, I'm not trying to just pick on those two. Let me look at some other teams here that I know I've seen running their mouth. Mets fans, Phillies fans, Braves fans, running your mouth, acting like that's not going to be a 3-team race all year. Like, be better. Have some awareness. You know how this division's going to shake out. It's going to come down to the wire. Stop pretending like it's not. Padres fans. Now, you want to talk about people dunking on a team. You would have thought the Dodgers were 0-30. I've never seen something like it. They're 15-11. They're first in the division. Let's relax. Not to say they're going to run the table. I said before the season even started, I said it's not going to be a cakewalk to the World Series. I genuinely believe that it won't. But let's stop acting like they're a poverty franchise. I get they spend a lot of money, but I think they're doing all right. Just ask the Padres, D-backs, Giants, and the Rockies. Yeah. There's some other fan bases around baseball that I've seen, and you all forget, because we run a Major League Baseball podcast, we see all of it. You guys are like in your respective, not all of you guys, but majority of you guys are in your respective corners of your team. So you're not taking in this stuff necessarily to the same degree. So just believe me when I say that I'm seeing this unnecessary dunking across all of baseball, and it's pitiful, and I expect you to be better because it's April. That's all I got, folks. I appreciate you listening. This was fun. Hopefully I had a little more energy for you tonight. I hope you enjoyed listening. Bear with us in the coming episodes. We're making some tweaks to some of our equipment, some of our streaming tools and softwares. Possibly we're tinkering around with some stuff. It's a good time to do it with Nate being out for another episode or two. But yeah, just bear with us if there's any technical issues. We'll try to get on top of that. But all that to say, appreciate you listening. Appreciate you following along. Let me know if there's something in the coming episodes you want me to get to. I'm really doing what I can as I work through this solo. Again, I'm not trying to like pat myself on the back, but I'm doing what I can to cover my bases based on the main storylines across baseball. But if there's something that's pressing that I haven't really addressed, please bring it to my attention. And I will do my best to incorporate it into the conversation. But other than that, this will wrap up episode 2 of the week. So we will see you guys probably Sunday if the schedule remains consistent. We'll see you guys Sunday. Yeah, that should be it. We love y'all. And as always, looking forward to talking more baseball with you guys soon. Until next time, stay filthy.